Pokey the Bear here with the Night Circus, part 7, the final chapter in my opinion. So we're gonna open in on 1902. Bailey is packing a bag. He's gonna run away and join the circus. He's so excited. He waits late in the night, waits for everybody to fall asleep. He goes and gets all of his prized possessions. And then his sister, Caroline, asks him if he's running away. She interrupts him in the kitchen. And he goes, something like that. She says, "You can't possibly be serious." And he goes, "I'm not sure when I'll be back. I'll write when I can. Tell them not to worry about me." And she goes, "Bailey, go to bed." He goes, "Why don't you go back to bed, Caroline? You look like you could use some more beauty rest." And Caroline just sneers at him. Just sneers. Bailey continues, "When have you ever cared what I do?" And then she says, "You've been acting like a baby all week. Playing at that stupid circus, staying out all night. Grow up, Bailey." And he says, "That's precisely what I'm doing. I don't care if you don't understand that. Staying here won't make me happy. It'll make you happy because you're insipid and boring. And an insipid, boring life is enough for you, but it's not enough for me. It will never be enough for me. So I'm leaving. Do me a favor and marry someone who will take decent care of Dad's sheep." Bam! Right like that. He just tells his sister off. And then he takes off and runs away to join the circus. Ho! We then go backwards to 1901, where we've got Chandris and Alexander talking. We go to Marco, everybody is kind of like nearing what's happening. Celia is in love with Marco, and Marco is in love with Celia. We're actually going into part 4 of the book, and all of this stuff is just kind of like wrapping up. And then we open back in Celia wishing she could stay forever, listening to Marco's heartbeat. Only she can't. She takes the book that he's got with all the circus performer and all the everything in it, the safety book, we'll call it. She takes that with her as she leaves, when she leaves his place. And she goes to talk to her dad, who tells her that Testuco is Alexander's last student, that she was the survivor of the last thing. On page 400 exactly, we've got another room playing with fire. The only illumination in this tent comes from the fire. The flames are a radiant, flickering white like the bonfire in the courtyard. You pass a fire eater elevated on a stripped platform. He keeps small bits of flames dancing atop long sticks while he prepares to swallow them whole. On another platform, a woman holds 2 long chains with a ball of flame at the end of each. She swings them in loops and circles, leaving glowing trails of white light in their paths, moving so quickly that they look like strings of fire rather than single flames on lengths of chain. Performers on multiple platforms juggle torches, spinning them high in the air. Occasionally, they toss these flaming torches to each other in a shower of sparks. Elsewhere, there are flaming hoops perched at different levels that performers slip in and out of with ease, as though the hoops were only metal and not encased in flickering flames. The artist on this platform holds pieces of flame in her bare hands, and she forms them into snakes and flowers and all manners of shapes. Sparks fly from shooting stars. Birds flame and disappear like miniature phoenixes in her hands, and she smiles at you as you watch the white flames in her hand become, with the delft movement of her fingers, a boat, a book, a heart of fire. Of course, Bailey ends up, well, we're not on Bailey. actually. We're in 1901 still. And in this moment, Celia is talking to Testuco. Now, everybody is still very shaken up about the loss of the clockmaker. And so they're on the train, traveling as though everything is normal. The train looks normal. It doesn't look like all this magic is hidden inside of it. It just looks like a regular coal train in the 1800s, early 1900s. And Cecilia goes and talks to Testuco. She asks Testuco, "Why are you here?" And obviously she's like, "I was hired to be a contortionist." And then she said, "I'm not in the mood for this." And Testuco says, "You should choose your questions more carefully and you may receive more satisfying answers." And then Celia goes, "Well, why did you never tell me about the challenge that you had played before yourself?" And she said, "I made an agreement that I would not reveal myself unless approached directly, and I keep my word." "Well, then why did you come here in the beginning?" "I was curious. There has not been a challenge of this sort since the one I participated. I did not intend to stay." And she asked, "Why did you stay?" And she said, "I like Chandris. And the venue for my challenge was a more intimate one, and this seemed unique. It is rare to discover places that are truly unique, and I stayed to observe." She then asks her about the game, and you find out this Testuco was, of course, in love with her opponent, who turned herself into a pillar of fire because she learned that she could not be with Testuco. So instead of engaging in the challenge, she committed the ultimate act of love in literature. She ended everything for herself so that she did not have to go on, knowing that she killed her challenger, her love. Instead, she took her own life. And this is what a Testuco is. Why Testuco is so like this, because the one person that she truly loved gave themselves up so that she could win a ridiculous challenge, and she's aware that that's what it is. But we flash back forward to 1902, where Bailey has arrived at the circus. Only the circus is gone. They've left. They must have left early. He runs to the train station. He's searching. He cannot find them. He thinks it's going to take hours for these people to have gone. They couldn't have gone yet. But he reaches the train station to no avail. The circus is gone. It's left him, his one true love puppet, on that circus train. But he runs into Revors, which he didn't know what Revors were. He was a Revor before they were Revors. And there he learns of the whole other side of the circus. How all these people just follow the circus around. And these Revors are like, "Oh, you're going because you're in love. You're going to go run away. Let us support you." They take him with, they pay his train fare. They take him, he's in first class seatings. I'm talking like, well, let's think of a rich person back then. The guy with the fur trade, John Jacob Astor. That would be like 1912, a little bit before that. So yeah, he's in like John Jacob Astor, kind of like the 5-star hotels of where they have traveled to, which is New York. He's seeing New York, things he never thought he'd see because he was on a sheep farm his whole life. And now here he is in New York with these random strangers who are taking care of him. They buy him this nice new sharp suit. It's like fashioned to fit him perfectly, and this little farm kid can't believe this is happening. But it is. He goes to New York with these random people who are going to take care of him. We go to earlier on in 1902, where the illusionist is actually, Celia is actually saying goodbye to Marco. He came to visit her at the circus, and she tells him, if you want me to save the circus, or, kind of like under the lines that I'm about to destroy myself for this challenge because I want you to win. I can't live without you. So I'm going to do kind of what Testuco's challenger did. And end it and hopefully save the circus in doing so, because she realizes how important they are in the circus, but they can't go on living like this. And she says, don't come back. If you love me, don't come back, kind of in a way. And then a little bit later in 1902, Cecilia is trying to figure out a way to make the whole circus continue on when she doesn't exist anymore. And Marco, on the same hand, is dealing with the same thing from the other side. They're having conversations with their teachers. They're asking their teachers, why did you raise me for this challenge when I'm just going to have to kill the one I love? And both of their challenges are like, well, no, get over it. Well, actually, the dad, Hector, is telling her that she's weak. She's weak, and love is a weak feeling, and you shouldn't be feeling it, and it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Marco's teacher, Mr. Alexander, answers his question. Why did you do this to me? Why would you spend all this time training me for such a thing? And Alexander goes, I thought it preferable to the life you might have had otherwise, regardless of the consequences. Doesn't that just break your heart? He snatched this boy up out of an orphanage to put him in this challenge because he thought that life would be better than the life he was going to live, and he was right. But he didn't realize that he was going to have fallen in love and getting his love torn away from him. But next room description. Charming but deadly. You follow the sound of a flute into a hidden corner, the hypnotic melody beckoning you closer. Seated on the ground, nestled in an alcove on striped silk pillows, are two women. One plays the flute you heard. A burning coil of incense sits between them, along with black-lidded basket. A small audience is gathering. The other woman carefully removes the lid from the basket before taking out a flute of her own and adding a counter melody to the first. Two white cobras coil around each other as they rise from the woven basket in perfect time with the music. For a moment they seem to be one snake, and not two. And then they separate again, moving down along the sides of the basket, gliding onto the ground quite close to your feet. The snake moves back and forth, together in motions resembling a strikingly formal dance, elegant and graceful. The music increases in tempo, and now there is something harsher about the way the snake moves. Waltz morph into battle. They circle around each other, and you watch for one or the other to strike. One of them hisses softly, and the other responds in kind. They continue to circle as the music and the incense rise into the starry sky above. You cannot tell which snake strikes first. They are identical after all, as they rear and hiss and jump at each other. You are distracted by the fact that they are no longer stark white, but a perfect black ebony. So 1902, obviously, Bailey has reached New York, and where does he run off to? The circus! Now here's the point where I really don't feel like I need to be in the book as much, because it's pretty much easier to explain without the book. So what happens in these last few chapters is that Bailey runs. He finds the circus. He gets inside, and inside the circus everything is broken. It's as though the challenge has been interrupted in the middle of the challenge. And because the reason this is because Isabel left the circus and ran to London, where she sent Marco back to the circus using some sort of trick that Celia taught her, to send him there so that they would have to be forced to face each other in the challenge. And while they were faced, they froze the whole circus so that they could find a way to get someone else to take over the circus while they could go off and be together. They found a loophole in the challenge. If they both take their own lives at the same time, but in the way that her dad Hector has taken his life, then they're not taking their lives. They become one part of the circus with each other. And that's how it goes. Bailey gets there and he takes over the circus. He saves the circus. This little sheep farmer from Massachusetts saves the whole Night Circus. And Cecilia and Marco, they get to be together forever in the circus. And I am in no way condoning what they did at all. But that is what happens. The very end of the book, though, on page 491, which is in part 5, Fate's foretold. It is late, so there is no line for the fortune teller. While outside the cool night air is scented with caramel and smoke, this tent is warm and smells of incense and roses and beeswax. You do not wait long in the antechamber before passing through the beaded curtain. It makes a sound like rain as the beads collide. The room beyond is lined with candles. You sit down at the table in the corner of the room. Your chair is surprisingly comfortable. The fortune teller's face is hidden behind a fine black veil, but the light catches her eyes as she smiles. She has no crystal balls, no deck of cards, only a handful of sparkling silver stars that she scatters across the velvet-covered table, reading them like runes. She refers to things she could not know without uncanny specificity. She tells you facts you already knew, information you might have guessed, possibilities you cannot fathom. The stars on the table almost seem to move in the undulating candlelight, shifting and changing before your eyes. Before you leave, the fortune teller reminds you that your future is never set in stone. And with that, the only other real important facts, in my opinion, of the book is that Poppet and Widget help Bailey in taking over the circus. There are in memoriams added for the people whose lives were lost in making the circus. And you'd have to read the very last description of the room. I think it is far too long for me to read it to you. Hopefully you one day get a copy for yourself. But you learn in the last chapter before the last room description that this whole book is Widget's side of the story. It's Widget's point of view telling everything to Alexander, because Alexander would not sell him the rights to the circus. They got Chandris to sign his rights away to the circus for Poppet and Widget and Bailey to take over, because Chandris' mind was feeble. He was ready to go, and the circus was keeping him alive. But in order to get Alexander to sign his rights away in the circus and to declare the challenge to be a stalemate, he told Widget that Widget had to tell him a story. So Widget told him the story of the Night Circus. And the very last line: you think as you walk away from Le Cirque de Rêves and into the creeping dawn that you felt more awake within the confines of the circus. You are no longer quite certain which side of the fence is a dream. But the circus arrives without warning. No announcements precede it. It is simply there, when yesterday it was not. So I do hope you guys enjoyed my Spark Notes of the Night Circus, in case you ever needed to read it for school or whatever not. I will be seeing you next time with the book, The Book Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult. It's another love story, so this one's probably really, I don't want to say that when I do this book, it's for the chicks, because I think there's a lot of concepts in here for guys, but it is kind of a fairy tale book. It's by Jodi Picoult and her daughter, Samantha Van Leer, Between the Lines. So hopefully you'll be joining me for that. Have a wonderful, beautiful day, and stay warm and stay